Hey, this is Scott, and today we're going to be taking a look at the SJCAM SJ8 Pro action camera. So first and foremost, I apologize for the noise in here. It's over 90 degrees at the moment, and I don't have an air conditioner in here, so I have the fan running over there, I got the window open over here. It's really hot, so just bear with me. So in this video, of course, I will touch on the specs and image quality of this camera, but there are already a handful of videos which do very good and clear comparisons and assessments of the image quality of this camera, so I'm going to focus more on like a user experience type review and focus most of my time in this video just talking about things that I've noticed, both positive and negative, while using this camera. And if you really do want to see like an in-depth comparison to the GoPro, for example, or just an overall assessment of the image quality in technical terms, I would recommend one of those other videos. They already exist. There's over a handful of them, so I don't want to be repetitive. I want to talk about things that I didn't hear them talk about so much, and that's what I'm going to do today. I also don't want to make you wait through the whole video to find out my opinion, so I'll come right out and say that I really enjoyed using this camera. I did have one kind of major complaint that might be a reason that you'd want to go with another camera over this, specifically the GoPro. But other than that one issue, I really love this. I think it's an incredible value for the money. You're getting a very professional level, high quality, high spec camera for a very good price, about half of what you're going to pay for the most comparable GoPro Hero 6. So the one thing that for me is a major complaint, or something that GoPro has a major advantage with over this, and to be fair, pretty much all of the other cameras of this design, is that the GoPro is waterproof out of the box. To be honest, using this without a waterproof housing is much easier, less frustrating, and just an overall more pleasurable experience. And with this, and again, pretty much all the other non-GoPro options, you're going to have to put it in a waterproof housing to be waterproof at all. Whereas the GoPro Hero 5 and Hero 6 were waterproof up to 10 meters just without anything, which is really nice. Again, for usability purpose, but also if you're using this with something like the Tech G6 gimbal that I'm testing right now, that gimbal itself is also waterproof, but the clamp does not fit the SJ8 with the waterproof housing, so using this together with that Tech G6 kind of just renders that waterproof design of the G6 useless. On top of that, the audio when using this with the waterproof housing is not great. You can really barely hear it in most cases, and when you can, it's just really bad quality. I wouldn't consider it at all usable, to be honest with you. So just having to use it in that waterproof housing to get any level of water resistance is kind of a downer. So the actual image quality of this is very good. You get a very detailed and clear image, especially in the 4K, which you have up to 60 frames per second in 4K, just like the GoPro Hero 6. It's very good, very detailed, very sharp. As some of the other reviews may mention, you might not have quite the same level of dynamic range or nice color as the GoPro, but it's more than enough for pretty much all users, I would think, and I've been totally satisfied with it, not disappointed at all. With what it has. It's been more than enough for me, and I think it will be more than enough for most people in pretty much all situations. You do get also pretty much all of the same frame rates and resolutions as the GoPro Hero 6, which is the newest one that they have at the moment. Both of these cameras can do up to 4K in 60 frames per second, but the GoPro Hero 6 can do 240 frames per second in 1080p, whereas this SJ8 Pro can only do 240 frames per second in 720. In 1080p, you'll get up to 120 frames per second with the SJ8 Pro. With the SJ8 Pro, you get very good image stabilization. It's a 6-axis image stabilization that you can use up to 4K 30 frames per second. You also get distortion correction. You get an 8x digital zoom. You get 12 megapixel raw photos, and you can take advantage of the H.265 format up to 1080p for smaller file sizes, but even in 4K 60p, which is not the H.265 format, you can take about 1.5 hours of video on a 64GB memory card. You also get time-lapse functionality. You can take manual control of most of your settings in video and photo, and just overall it's very easy to use. Keep in mind that not only is this camera half the price of the GoPro Hero 6, but that also means most of the accessories, the name brand batteries, battery chargers, things like extra housings, all of that is also going to be cheaper, which can really help when you're, really building out besides just the camera itself, which pretty much you need a lot of different accessories to effectively use a GoPro. So extra batteries, things like that are very nice to have, and they are cheaper in the case of the SJCAM. The battery life is also very long. In 4K 60 frames per second, it's rated at 90 minutes on one battery, and that's proved to be pretty much true in my experience. I've gotten at least an hour and a half of recording. Again, it will depend on which mode you're in, but very, very good battery life out of this camera. The build quality of the SJ8 Pro is also very, very nice. It does not feel cheap at all. You feel like you're definitely getting what you're paying for and then some. The body itself has a screw mount on the bottom of it, which is really nice, so you can use it very easily without a case, without a housing, and use all kinds of different accessories with it, which is something that's not there on the GoPro, which is weird because you're able to use the GoPro without a case and still retain that waterproof design. I would think that if anything, the GoPro would have this screw mount on the bottom, so that way you could use it with a bunch of different accessories without having to put it in any frame or housing or whatever. I think that instead of having to use a frame, having a screw mount on the bottom is a much more logical design. But this does have that, so if you're not worried about getting it wet, then it's really easy and convenient to just take it out like it is without using the case and attach pretty much any mount or any accessory to it just right there. The touchscreen on here is also very, very nice. Of course, it looks great, it's bright and clear, very nice looking screen, but also it's really nice to use. It's very responsive, it works very smoothly, and just it hasn't given me any issues about like lag or just like not responding to my touch. I really enjoyed using the touchscreen on here, and that again helps with the overall experience of using the camera, making it pleasurable and just able to change things on the fly, not have to get frustrated with the menus. Overall, the interface, the physical touchscreen of it, and the display are all very, very good. The actual menu system is also really, really nice. You can choose from 2 different menu layouts, menu designs, and I personally like the kind of icon style better. But that unfortunately does not carry over to the resolution and frame rate menu. That's more of just a typical list type menu, which is still easy enough to use, there's no problem there, but I like the other menu. It's just visually really simple and easy to use, so I think that if they carried that over to the resolution menu as well, it'd be really nice, a nice little extra touch. But just as a side note for that resolution menu, when you're scrolling through the different frame rates and stuff, just be sure that you scroll with your finger kind of off to the side, not actually touching the numbers, because if you touch the numbers when you're scrolling through, it's very easy to accidentally choose one of those frame rates instead of scrolling through all of the options. But if you scroll off to the side, like not actually touching the numbers, just in the middle of the screen, it'll scroll through all of them without accidentally choosing something. And when you're ready to choose something, you can just hit that and you're good to go. This may be stupid, but just it kind of threw me off when I first started using it. The screen on the front of the camera also has a lot of very useful information, the time that you've been recording, the remaining memory on your card, the battery life, things like that, and it's nice that that is also featured on here. In terms of design and kind of features and things, a couple of last things that the GoPro does have that this does not is voice control and the quick capture mode, where you can just push one button and it will turn on and start recording right away. To me, it's not a huge thing. The voice control is nice at times, but it doesn't always work perfectly anyway. And this turns on plenty quick. When you hold the power button for a couple seconds to turn it on, it'll start up and be ready to go within just a second or two. So I haven't found myself in any situations where I've missed things. Maybe depending on your use, having that quick capture mode or voice control might be more useful for you, and it's definitely not a bad thing to have, but I haven't found myself wanting that so much as I just want the waterproof design out of the box. Speaking of out of the box though, the SJ8 Pro does come with a kit that has a lot more accessories right from the start compared to the GoPro, so you can kind of just get that kit and you're ready to go in a lot of different situations, whereas with the GoPro you have to buy a lot of extra things separately, which again adds to the price, and those GoPro brand things are more expensive than the other accessories you will buy from SJCAM if you buy them separately as well. But just right out of the box, this kit you can get with this. You can buy also just the camera only, but the kit I think is very worth it because it comes right from the start with things to get you going. So before I kind of jump into just some of the few remaining little nitpicky complaints that I have about the SJ8 Pro, I want to kind of summarize the things that I've talked about so far just by saying that the SJ8 can do pretty much 80% or more of what the GoPro Hero 6 can do at half the price, and that's an incredible value just in terms of design and specs and quality alone. But on top of that, I had a pretty bad experience with GoPro, where I got 3 faulty cameras in a row, and 2 of those were sent to me directly from GoPro as replacements for the original camera. And going through the whole process was an immense pain and frustration. Getting in touch with GoPro was not easy. It took time. They were less than helpful. They didn't seem like they wanted to help me, even though it was their product that was faulty. It was nothing that I did. It was not working out of the box. I got like just weird coloration of my videos. The back screen just didn't work. Just a lot of different things that were their fault, but they didn't seem like apologetic or wanting to help me at all. And that really, really turned me off. And it's the reason that I don't have a GoPro at the moment. So in my experience with SJCAM, they've been incredibly helpful and very friendly, easy to get in touch with, very quick to respond. And that's a big thing. I mean, customer service, of course, product reliability and everything is one thing, which GoPro didn't have anyway. But customer service is a big thing. You know, if something does go wrong, because it does, no matter how great a product is, things go wrong. Having great customer service is a really big part of what makes a good product for me. And so far, from my experience at least, SJCAM has been more than adequate in that department. And I also just haven't had any problems anywhere close to anything like I did with the GoPro. So, I mean, in terms of build quality and reliability of the actual product itself, I really can't say anything negative about SJCAM or the SJ8 Pro in particular either. So some of the early users I've seen in reviews have complained about some bugs or things that they found with the software, but that seems to have been all sorted out because I haven't had any of those issues myself. No bugs, no shutdowns, nothing like that, no freezing. It's just worked flawlessly for me. So anything that you may see in other videos at this moment in July of 2018 have been sorted out with the SJ8 Pro. So now on to some of my more nitpicky final complaints. The first thing that I noticed is that this camera does get fairly hot fairly quickly, and you definitely notice it. Like when you touch it, the camera itself is hot. I don't know if it's the battery that's getting hot or what, but it does get hot very quickly. And while it hasn't overheat or shut down on me because of that yet, if it did happen, I wouldn't be surprised. Especially when you're out in the summer heat, which here, as I mentioned, is incredible. I mean, I'm sweating. I hope you can't see it on the video. If it did shut down at some point because of overheating, I wouldn't be surprised. Again, it hasn't happened yet, and I hope it doesn't, but it does get hot. And I think because of that, when you're using it in the waterproof housing, especially with the humidity, which we also have here, the waterproof housing can fog up a little bit after a little while of use. So you might want to take it out and let it air out between taking videos from time to time if you're using it in that waterproof housing, because it does fog up and that might be visible in your video. So another thing is that the status lights on here are a little confusing to me. It sounds, again, kind of like a silly complaint, and like I said, these are nitpicky complaints here. But the status lights seem like it's kind of a wasted opportunity to improve the usability of this camera. Just bear with me. There are status lights on the front and the back, and the power button itself also lights up. You can turn all of this off if you want to, but the way it is now is when you power the camera on, it's blue, the status lights are blue, and when you start recording, they just blink blue. And to me, recording has always been a red status light, so if you look at it quickly, just at a quick glance, maybe from a slight distance, if you want to check if you're still recording, seeing a red status light would be a much more confident, inspiring, or just easy to notice indicator of the fact that I'm recording. But just a blinking blue light is less noticeable for me. And there's been times where I've looked at it and kind of, wait, am I recording? And I kind of second guess it for a second. And just, I think that if they just switched it over to a red light when you're recording, it would be much more logical. On the front screen, again, you can see some information when you're recording as well. Like the time will start rolling. When you're not recording, it's just all zeros. But when you start recording, the time will start rolling. So you can see that you're recording there. But also on the front screen, when you're in video mode, or even video lapse mode, for example, there's a round circle on the screen, and typically a round circle means recording, in my experience. But that's there even when you're not recording, and that doesn't change when you start recording. So again, I think it's kind of a wasted opportunity to make it more clear and just improve the usability or the user experience. You know, something like having a square or a pause mark when you're not recording, and then switch over to a round circle when you are recording, seems like a more logical way to do it for me, in addition to the red status light. So SJCAM, again, this is something I imagine can be fixed through firmware, so possibly if the red LED is built into there. So hopefully they can improve that in the future, and just it's a super small little thing to complain about, but it's something that I think they could fix pretty easily. So as I mentioned, with the bare camera without the waterproof housing, I might be a little bit worried about scratching the front lens. When you compare it with like the GoPro, for example, there is that front glass or front lens which is detachable. You can take it off, you can replace it very easily on the GoPro. And you can also very easily attach kind of a protective film like you do with a smartphone or something like that onto that front glass on the GoPro very easily. So just in a couple of different levels of different ways that you can have that security and not be worried about scratching the front glass on the camera of the GoPro without the waterproof housing. Here with the SJCAM, you just got the bare lens. That's not that easy to put a protective film on because it is curved and it is round, and also it's not easily user replaceable. It's not replaceable from what I've been told, but with the average user's ability, it's probably not something that most people will be able to do, so you have to be careful not to scratch that. Maybe it's not so much of an issue because, again, this is not waterproof out of the case, so maybe most people will typically use it with the waterproof housing as opposed to the GoPro, but I see no really downside to making that front glass user replaceable like the GoPro is. It's just, I thought that was a really smart design to make it easier to use without having to worry about it. I don't know, maybe I'm just paranoid about scratching the glass. I am with my camera lenses as well, but I would like to have that here as well. The SJ8 does, however, come with a nice little rubber cap that you can put on there to protect it when you're storing your camera, which is appreciated. My final complaint, and this is maybe less of a nitpicky one as a slight addition to my complaint that this is not waterproof out of the box. And again, I complain about this a lot, but remember, this the GoPro is, as far as I know, the only camera of this design in this kind of category that is waterproof out of the box. So it's still not a reason to choose one of the other non-GoPro versions over this. If you're not going to go with GoPro, this is still, I think, the best option. But anyway, getting back to my complaint. The waterproof housing does actually come with a replaceable door. You can replace it with one that is touchscreen friendly, which on paper and in theory is a really cool idea. It's a really great way to both use the waterproof housing and still retain that touchscreen capability. Of course, you can't use it in the water. You have to take it out of the water and maybe dry it off a little bit first, same as the GoPro. But in reality, it doesn't work quite as nicely as I wanted it to, for a couple of reasons. The first reason is that I'm not sure how much I trust it, to be honest with you. Maybe I'm wrong, I hope I'm wrong, but it does feel like it could get ripped or poke a hole in it very easily. I could be wrong, and I could only tell if I'm wrong or not by really, breaking it, basically. But I don't want to run the risk of ruining this camera, so I haven't done that. Especially if you're at the beach or somewhere, and you can easily get, a grain of sand on your finger or something, and you go to touch the screen, I feel like it would be really easy to tear or poke a hole in here without noticing it, and then when you go back and get it wet again, you just ruin your camera, which totally just defeats the purpose of having a waterproof housing. I'll say it one last time, I could be totally wrong about this, and maybe if SJCAM tells me that they'll replace it if I ruin my camera, maybe I will test just how strong it is. But it just feeling it only, it feels like I can't trust it as much as I would like to. On top of that, it's not as easy to use as I would hope. And again, this is just something that maybe, physically they can't really improve on very much, just because of the the way the touchscreen works and the way that the waterproof case has to work. But it's not that smooth to use like it is with the bare screen, of course. Again, going back to the GoPro, you can use it in the water and still get access to the full typical experience of using the touchscreen. But anyway, here it's not that smooth, and especially around the edges, which is where the menus are located, you really do have to put a little bit of effort into touching or swiping to get those things to respond to you. The typical touchscreen without the case is really responsive and really great, and maybe that gap is what is disappointing. But especially around those edges where the menus are and everything, it is a little bit troublesome to use. It's usable, so if you do use it, you can have access to the touchscreen, which is nice. But for me personally, because I might not trust it quite as much and just the experience is not as great, I probably would opt to either just dry off the case and open it and then use the touchscreen, or just control it from the Wi-Fi app on my phone. The other thing about that is that the waterproof case housing door, which is touchscreen compatible, is only able to keep it waterproof up to 3 meters. Again, the GoPro by itself is waterproof up to 10 meters. And this case with the standard door is also waterproof up to 10 meters, but once you switch over the door to the touchscreen door, you only got 3 meters. So in a swimming pool or something like that, it might be okay, but or at the beach or whatever, but if you really want to maximize the waterproof design of this case, still you're going to want to use the regular door anyway. So that's maybe less of an issue than the other two issues I mentioned, but it is something to keep in mind. Again, if you're going to be strict and compare it to the GoPro, like I said, by itself the GoPro is waterproof up to 10 meters, and this touchscreen door will only allow you to go 3 meters. So in conclusion, I feel like I've complained a lot, but I also feel like 90% of my complaints have kind of revolved around the non-waterproof design, which is something that is true of any non-GoPro camera. So don't hold it against the SJCAM too much. It's basically just choosing between this or the double the price GoPro option. So if you don't care so much about that out-of-the-box waterproof design, which like me, I'm not an extreme sports like surfer or anything like that. I want to be able to use this with my kids for the most part, with my family, at the beach, in the pool, at the water park, using squirt guns, using water balloons, things like that. And I don't want to have to worry about it. That's the extent of what I want to have to be safe against. And so for that respect, the 3 meters of the waterproof door that is touchscreen compatible isn't really a problem. But like I said, it's not the most pleasurable to use, and I'd prefer just to have a body that would be waterproof out of the box, that I can use just out of the box, and also that I don't have to worry about scratching the lens so much. It's just easier to use in those situations for me, because the sound in the waterproof case is not that great, and if I want to use it with my family, having some sound is nice. But for that, I have to put it in the waterproof case with this, and then I don't get sound, so it's just one point, really one single point, but that is very disappointing. Last time I'll mention it, it's not only this camera. The GoPro, as far as I know, is the only one that has that design, so is it worth double the price? Probably not, to be honest with you, even for me. Even though I've complained about it this much, it's probably not worth double the price for that feature alone. And besides that feature, the SJ8 has an incredible set of features: frame rates, image quality, build quality, long battery life, very good touchscreen, very good interface, and a lot more. There's really very little to complain about besides that one thing. The other things that the GoPro has that this doesn't are not so significant for me either, like the voice control or the quick capture function. Those things don't really matter for me personally. Again, they might for some users, but besides the waterproof thing, this is an amazing camera. I've really liked using it. It has given me no trouble. The customer service with SJCAM has been spectacular. They're very helpful, very friendly, very professional, very quick, and that makes a big difference as well. You're paying half the price for getting more than double of the customer service. And a product that just works. I mean, I don't know about everybody else's experience with GoPro, but mine was terrible. So think about all of those things and decide if double the price is really worth it for you. Again, for me, honestly, I don't think it is. I would probably choose this time and time again over the GoPro at the moment with the current set of features. If they released something that is waterproof out of the box, I'd buy 5 of them, seriously. And I'd just give one to each of my family members and just tell them, just use it freely, don't worry about it. And I would be extremely happy. So SJCAM, if you can develop something that's waterproof out of the box just like this, do it, because I hope that I'm not the only one that would be very impressed by that, and I think that would really step up the usability a whole lot and make this pretty much the perfect camera. I mean, considering the price, even if the price was a little bit higher, if it was waterproof, I'd be totally okay with that. Again, taking into consideration the customer service and everything you're getting with SJCAM. I'm sorry, I'm totally rambling here, but I just want to let you know that despite all of the things that I've complained about, I completely, 100% recommend this, and I think you should go out and get one if you don't need that waterproof design. This has been a fantastic camera, and I just want to make sure that I communicate that clearly enough that even though I had many complaints, this is an amazing camera, and it has worked great image quality, great experience in a number of different ways, and I think you would enjoy it as well. If you watched this far, congratulations. I probably wouldn't have myself, but if you like this video, found it helpful, as always, leave me a thumbs up. Any questions or comments, leave them down below and I'll be sure to get back to you as well. If you like this video, you can share it as well. I'd be really happy if you did that. Subscribe if you want to see more in the future, and as always, thank you for watching.